Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye is at the Milwaukee Public Library interviewing candidates in the 2014 elections. We're interviewing Jason Red Arnold of South Milwaukee. He's a Republican running in the 7th Senate District. Jason, welcome back to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Jason, I want to start the interview this way. To get ready for these candidate interviews, you know, I go to dozens, maybe 100 of candidate websites. I found on yours something that I've never found on any other one. You have a solution to Obamacare. I can't resist. Tell us, give us the shorthand version of it.
Right out of the gate. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Well, actually, there is a short version on the website, so I can't stress that enough. And I have to plug this. I did make a video. It took me 60 hours to produce. It's 43 minutes, and it basically explains everything. But the short version is, as you know, a lot of bureaucracies have a lot of red tape. And the healthcare industry is no different. So basically, it eliminates a lot of the red tape. And I'm working with a doctor from Kansas who found the solution because there was a few things that were missing from the healthcare system. And basically, it's a new topping on an old burger. Basically, what it is it's a loophole within the Affordable Care Act, Section 1301A3, if you want to look it up, that allows for direct primary care, i.e. you don't have a third-party payer for your insurance company to pay your direct primary care physician. 97% of anything that you're going to have done medically can be done through your primary care physician. And basically, any other insurance doesn't work that way as health insurance does. You don't have car insurance to pay for your gasoline or buy your tires. Why are we having health insurance getting involved in paying for you to see your primary care physician? So basically, that is the nutshell of it. But there are a lot of things that go along with it to make it work. To where I made the video so you can fully understand the dynamics.
Well, that's intriguing, but you're solving this huge federal issue, but you're running for the state Senate. Can you reconcile that?
Yes, absolutely. That is just e pluribus unum, one out of many things that I'm running for. I'm running to try and correct, and it's almost a happenstance thing. The thing is that local, state, and federal laws, nothing needs to be passed in this. That's the beauty of it. It's already there. It's already right there for us. We just need to change our minds and start enacting it. But us at the state level, as state officials, local officials, even federal officials, can do things to help this along. You know, you throw a leaf into a stream, it's going to float down anyway, but you can help push that along, and that's something that state legislatures can do, whether it's, you know, in order to start up this clinic or this system, we're going to maybe give you a tax break or help you out with this, or do something of that nature to where we can assist. But realistically, that, like I said, it's just one out of many things to...
Well, okay, but let's keep talking about healthcare a little bit.
Sure.
Do you think the federal government, do you think state government should take the feds up on their offer to pay for an expansion of MA, Medicaid?
No, because of the way it is written. Basically, and I analogize it this way, and this might be a little bit crude, but say you're in a relationship with someone and you say, well, let's have a baby and I'm going to pay for it for the first 3 years. Okay, well, what about the other 15 years? Or what about college? What about this? So the way it's written is you have money coming into it for a certain amount of time, but then the states are on the hook after that. So I'm not hip on that. Plus, like I said, with this new healthcare system that I have on my website, you don't need to worry about that, because when you're cutting all the costs, when you cut that much cost right off the top, now Medicaid can be used what it's there for, which is high out-of-pocket costs and for helping people who are low income.
And the second healthcare question, the American Hospital Association says Wisconsin has the second lowest Medicaid reimbursement rate in the nation. Have you studied that issue? Do you think those rates need to be raised?
Again, with this system, that's not going to be a problem, because essentially with the direct primary care model, what will happen is that you basically pay $2 a day on average, all right, for health care, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's nobody that can't afford that. So when you're worrying about Medicaid reimbursement, the amount of money that you're going to save that Medicaid is paying already now is going to be taken care of by the person themselves, because the system allows.
So it's moot.
Yes.
So that issue is moot.
Yeah, it essentially is moot, because well, now we have all this extra money. Now we don't have to worry about who's paying what.
Okay.
So.
Many candidates who I interview say one of the top concerns of voters out there is public schools. If you're in the state Senate for the next session and the budget comes up, what are you going to push for in the area of public schools?
Well, first off, Common Core has to be out.
Common Core's gone?
Common Core is gone.
Okay.
The reason for that, and my parents are both Milwaukee public school teachers, so I know, a matter of fact, I probably know more about the inner workings of public school than I'd even wager a lot of the legislators. So yeah, that has to go because when you start looking into what really that is, it's pretty nefarious. Matter of fact, my website does delve on that. I have some links to videos that you can watch that you'll be amazed that it even got this far because of how nefarious that is. Are you referring to the school aid?
Well,
part
let me re-ask it this way. If you're the son of two MPS teachers, what do you think and what would you push for if you were a senator to help MPS do a better job?
There could be lots of things. There's been talk about breaking MPS up into smaller groups. I think a lot of it has to be with accountability. There's also school vouchers and school choice.
Yeah, how do you feel about those?
Well, who doesn't like choice? I mean, if you say, well, I only have, 2 types of hamburgers that I can choose from, or 14 types of hamburgers, which would you rather have? Okay. And I think we discussed this in the last interview, is that the limit was capped at 500 for the first year and 1,000 for the second year. And as a Six Sigma black belt, i.e. a data-driven person, that's not a big enough sample size in order to adequately gauge whether or not something's working. Okay. Like I said, if you and I, both like parachuting, and, I guess 100% of males in southeast Wisconsin like parachuting, it can't work that way.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Transportation funding. The Taxpayers Alliance says if we fund statewide transportation at 2013 levels for 10 years, we are $2 billion short.
Yeah.
Is there a deficit? If there is, how would you make it up?
Well, yeah, there's going to have to be a deficit, and I think a lot of that derives from, we were forced to drive fuel-efficient cars, which is great, helps the environment, saves on money, but that's kind of like saying, hey, if you get an A on your report card, we'll give you $10 for every A. Well, then you say, well, son, we have to take $10 because of all the time that well, that's a zero-sum equation. So when you're working on an aspect like that, you have to think outside the box. Also, as a Six Sigma black belt, I try to get involved with Order 66, which is the governor's executive order for a state lean initiative, and I even contacted the Department of Transportation, and their answer to me at the time was, oh no, we're fine. Well, now all of a sudden we're projecting this budget shortfall. Okay, well, what needs to be done? Well, like I said, you need to think outside the box. A good example of that, I don't know if you saw my ALS challenge, where I basically had a bulldozer dump on me. Well, it's still a bucket of ice water, but it's a little bit different. So, you can go around and around and around dumping a bucket of ice on your head, or you can think outside the box, do the same thing, but in a little different way.
When you say think outside the box, then you're not interested and wouldn't consider raising the gas tax or the $75 annual fee that you and I pay to register our vehicle?
No, because in any system, unless it's absolutely perfectly run, which even I'd say Apple, who you'd say largest corporation, they do almost everything right. Even they could stand some process improvement somewhere, I'm sure. And that's one of the things that the state lean initiative was supposed to do. And as far as I've seen, that's not been done, and it's not been done in the Department of Transportation. There are some ideas that I'd actually like to divulge, but I don't want anybody else taking my ideas. But yeah, you can look at it and find out, how to cut fat without cutting the meat, so you just have a bone. That's a lot of the problem, is that when people try to trim the fat, they end up trimming all the meat, and all you're left with the bone. What Six Sigma and lean processes do is basically allow you to trim that fat and keep as much of the meat as possible.
Leaders of Milwaukee say we need a new arena to keep the Milwaukee Bucks, or we're going to lose that. We're going to lose that team. The figures that I read in the Journal Sentinel estimate an arena costing between $400 and $500 million. Should there be any state aid to help pay for that?
No. First off, it's nice if I have a new suit to go to the ball, but a new suit to go to the ball is not going to get me any more raffle tickets, nor is it going to get me any more votes. It would be nice to have a new and upgraded arena, but they just purchased that for, I think it was $550 million. All right. Now, I guess, me as a citizen, yeah, I get to enjoy the Bucks, but I also pay for that. And this is a business. We shouldn't be subsidizing businesses like that. I have no problem with paying the high salaries. I have no problem with building the new arena. But if you have the taxpayers, some of which don't go to the game, taxpayers don't go to the game, what are they getting out of it? You know, why would we subsidize that when this business is technically perfectly capable of doing it themselves? Plus, they would reap all the reward because they wouldn't have to pay anything back. So, no, I don't believe that's something we should get involved in, because if that's the case, then why aren't we helping this business? Why aren't we helping this business? It's just the high-profile ones, and isn't that technically then discrimination? So.
There was a bill introduced last session. It will be reintroduced, legalizing medical marijuana. Mm-hmm. This travels, of course, with the experiences in Colorado and Washington, where they have legalized recreational marijuana. Your positions on both?
And maybe this is a generational thing, and maybe I'm a bit libertarian on this, but absolutely. A lot of the times you have to look at the facts, you look at the numbers. All right? You know, there's a lot of people that say this, that, or even have superstitions about things. As far as my research is done, and actually my very first class in college was a communications class, and that's what I gave a speech on. There's never been a confirmed death from marijuana, yet there's been 10 deaths from vitamin C. Matter of fact, I just read something to where a kid, I think it was a high school kid, died from too much water and Gatorade. So, I mean, is this really something that's harmful? And all the evidence points to no, and as we're seeing in Colorado and Washington, everything that they thought was going to explode, just same thing with Act 10, none of this is happening. Why? Because the truth is the truth, and you can't argue with the truth once it's out there. So, I mean, that might be something to where that, just like anything, has to be done properly. But yeah, I think it's something that it's coming. It's coming, and it should, because, like I said, the real problem is things like the prescription pills and the heroin epidemic that's coming from that. So, I mean, you don't see a kid dying with a needle in his arm and a kid sitting there passed out and dead with a joint hanging out of his mouth. It just doesn't happen.
How would you fight the heroin epidemic?
Well, first off, and the problem comes with, you had all this. You could go down to Florida and get all these pills. Well, it was cheap, it was accessible. Now all of a sudden you cut that off. Well, okay, that's good, but again, you got to look 5 steps ahead, which is, I think, a lot of times what politicians and most people just don't do, which is something that I don't have very many gifts, but that's one I have, which is why I'm running, because these things need to be thought through. You cut that off, well, an addict is an addict. I'm a former alcoholic. I was an alcoholic for 10 years. I've been sober for 7 years, so I've been through this. And you cut off that supply, they're going to go to something next. And that next thing, unfortunately, was heroin. So you have to keep the prescription medication locked down, inaccessible. But now you have to start fighting it on a different level. We have to somehow get these people into rehab treatment programs. If they don't respond to that, then if jail is the only option, then jail is the only option. But something has to be done to make sure that that has happened is curbed, because it's killing people.
One of the first bills to pass in the last session changed state law so that Giebig Taconite could apply for a permit to open that open pit iron mine in Ashland and Iron counties. Mm-hmm. Would you have voted for that bill?
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of funny that in my district, District 7, there's not one but 2 of the largest mining equipment manufacturers in the entire country, and yet the current representative voted against that bill. That's good, solid, blue-collar, high-paying, family-sustaining jobs. You know, how do you vote no against that? That's not bringing jobs to Wisconsin. That's not bringing prosperity. That's the line between poverty and prosperity. So absolutely voting for that. And basically all it did was open up the permitting process, because the DNR could have sat on anything. They had no time frame for anything. Matter of fact, the South Milwaukee Lagoon is going under the same thing. We've got sandbars building up there. You can't ice skate in it anymore. What we're waiting on is the DNR to test the soil to make sure it's not toxic. So basically that's all it did, and it only did it for iron mining. Iron mining is a lot safer than sulfur mining, sulfate mining, the gold, silver, of that nature. There's still a moratorium on that, which would need to be addressed at some other time. But absolutely, I mean, Iron County, it got its name because there's a lot of iron ore there. Minnesota does it safely. Michigan does it safely. Why are we, the burgers sitting in the middle, not doing anything?
First offense, drunken driving. Should it be a crime?
Crime is in felony, or crime is in misdemeanor crime?
You pick.
Well, as a former alcoholic, I do have a DUI on my record, which will stay there my entire life. I got it 13 years ago, and I'll tell you, that was a headache to go through, which it should be. And it's not something that anyone should do. But it's one of those things, especially in Wisconsin culture. Beer at the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, drinking is such a part of our culture. good or bad. It's just the reality of the situation. And I live under the premise that you give people second chances, but we be wary of thirds. Now, as far as I know, the way the law is set now, if you get one, and then you get one after 10 years, it's almost as if you got your first. But if you get a second one, it's a stiffer penalty then. And they're trying to make they made the fourth one a felony. I would even go as far as to say make the third one, because if you do it 3 times, something's not clicking. And the thing is the people who have their families, their entire families killed, are not generally killed by the people who are first-time drunk drivers. It's the habitual offenders. So these are again, we need to address what the root cause of the problem is, Six Sigma. Address the root cause of the problem, and that's getting the people who are the habitual offenders off the street, not the one guy that made the one mistake that he's going to pay for the rest of his life.
And then final question, you're running against Senate Democratic leader Chris Larson. Mm-hmm. You want to highlight differences between you and him?
I try to find a similarity aside from our age. Well, like I said, he voted against the mine. He votes party. I vote people. It's the defining line between whether or not you are free to do that which you choose to prosper yourself, or to have somebody tell you what to do, or to have the government do it for you, to be your savior, to be your lifeline. That you can name any issue, and we're probably going to be on opposing sides of it because of that. Because go get back taconite. Hey, you want to do the business? Do it safely, okay? Versus no, well, we don't want to do it because it might harm the environment, even though the studies show not. So that's going to be the huge difference, is that he votes party, I vote people. So.
Thank you. Jason Red Arnold of South Milwaukee is a Republican candidate in the 7th Senate District. The election is November 4. Jason, thanks for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.